if you have a desire to go from where you currently are to another level of income, impact, freedom, family time, husband time, wife time, religious time, spirituality time, if you have that desire, the only thing missing from where you are to where you want to be, what's in between you is a gap. And what's missing, there's a lot of people that are well-intended, but they don't have the depth and breadth. Don't just be a listener. Don't be someone who gets addicted to podcasts, addicted to courses, addicted to going to live events, addicted to the way it makes you feel. You must get addicted to the uncomfortable action it takes to actually be successful.
And Dean, I see a lot of masterminds out there, a lot of self-education, and it's one of the biggest products out there. People invest a lot of money every day, daily on, what's that number, by the way?
Learning on your own is outdated. Like, that doesn't work. The world's moving too fast. Traditional education is broken.
And I remember the people in the back were all like, Tony Robbins, and Tony's one of your best friends, so you know Tony really well. But people in the back were saying like, Tony Robbins is smiling and screaming because he's making so much money from all of us.
Why would you take that risk?
I want to leave a legacy. I want to be a hero. Maybe they're in their 40s or 50s, and I'm not here. I'm just making this up. And then somebody tells him, hey, was Albert your papa? They're like, damn, I can't believe that Albert changed this world. That's what I want to be remembered.
What you guys have is proximity.
Yeah.
You were coming out here, you could have come alone. You could have spent an extra night here and said, hon, I'm going to try to go to dinner with Dean, and I'm going to stay night. You could have. You chose proximity. And that was Tony's advice. And when you find the woman that matches that love, and he's got his hand on my chest, he said, don't let her out of your sight.
But 99% of people are like those I used to be. Oh, I used to have a business. Oh, I used to be great at this. Oh, I used to be an owner. And then people say, I have 40 years of experience. Like, you mean you have 1 year of experience repeating that 40 times? Yeah. That's not experience. Like, I'm like, what's up, Dad? Like, how come you don't have this house? Why do you have us in that house over there? Like, and why are we driving this white big van? Like, get one of those. And my dad told me something that's stood out for the rest of my life. He said, that's not for us. In Spanish, he told me, no es para nosotros. That's not for us. It's another thing. They make an excuse like, oh, you could be good in all these other areas, but you could be a cheater.
Kids all the time, they're like, Dad, but it's only this. I'm like, you don't make your bed and don't do that, that's how you're going to... So I believe how you do one thing is how you do everything.
Hey guys, welcome back to Driven Channel. I'm really excited here to be with Dean Graziosi. So Dean, what I like about this conversation we're going to have is because of real estate. You're a real estate investor, entrepreneur, and you have a New York best-selling book where you teach people how to be successful. And I know in the beginning you started as how people can start with their first investment, and because there's a lot of people that are way up there and they have a lot of apartments. But how do people start with their first investment? So most of our audience are in the real estate space. So thank you for being with us, Dean.
Yeah, good to be here, man. Good to be here.
So Dean, to get started, before we jump into all the real estate stuff, can you tell us a little bit about you and how you got started in the space for those of you that are not familiar with Dean Graziosi?
Yeah, well, first off, man, good to see what you're doing. You know, every time an entrepreneur overcomes obstacles, gets through a tough time, gets through a challenge in life, gets through the naysayers, gets through your own self-limiting beliefs, right? We all have that imposter syndrome that lives in us that, you know, if you made it, you're afraid you're not going to keep it. And then if you lose it, you don't think you can ever get it back. And I love watching entrepreneurial journeys because if you're listening or watching right now, you're either at a place where you want to do your own thing and go to another level, or you're doing well, but you know that you were meant for more. God designed you for more and you haven't tapped into your full potential. And I think every time someone like you spends the time to do a podcast, to do interviews, to do events, you're showing people what's possible.
Yeah.
So I commend you for choosing this path. It's something I got the bug 25 years ago. I've been in this self-education industry 25 years, showing people just ways that we discover, right? We don't have the answers to everything, but when you find the answers, you allow people the shortcut to go from where they are to where they want to be. And if you're watching, that means that you have a desire to be someplace else. Really think about this. This simplifies everything. if you have a desire to go from where you currently are to another level of income, impact, freedom, family time, husband time, wife time, religious time, spirituality time, if you have that desire, the only thing missing from where you are to where you want to be, what's in between you is a gap, and what's missing is the capabilities to get there. So the first thing is you got to find the capabilities. That's why you listen to a podcast like this, go to events, read books. You gain new capabilities. First part is gaining capabilities. Secondly, make sure you're learning it from the person that's actually been there. There's a lot of people that are well-intended, but they don't have the depth and breadth.
Yeah.
So the first is gain the capabilities from someone who's actually already walked the walk, talked the talk, been through the path, already failed, and they're on the other side. The third thing, and this is the most important one, don't just be a listener. Don't be someone who gets addicted to podcasts, addicted to courses, addicted to going to live events, addicted to the way it makes you feel. You must get addicted to the uncomfortable action it takes to actually be successful. Knowledge alone doesn't do crap. It doesn't do shit, for lack of a better word. So learn from someone who's actually been there, gain the capabilities that fill the gap from where you are to where you want to be, and then you got to take uncomfortable action. And it's scary. It's always scary moving forward. Now, of course, I'll give a little context of my background, but this isn't about me. If we're going to take the time, if you're going to take an hour to be with us, it's about you. And what I also want to tell you is take what serves you from this conversation and throw the rest away. You're not going to, maybe everything I share or we share today might not fit, but there's going to be one thing, 5 things that sink in. If that's the case, if there's something I say, something that triggers, you need to write it down, put a star next to it, and then take some kind of action that creates momentum that it becomes real. Because here's what I know about being in this business for 25 years. The only difference between those who actually go on and live the life they desire, become the man or the woman God designed them to be, are the ones that take the action. And I sometimes watch too many people feel great about receiving the knowledge.
Yeah.
And it's simply just not enough.
Yeah. And Dean, I see a lot of masterminds out there, a lot of self-education, and it's one of the biggest products out there. People invest a lot of money every day, daily on, what's that number, by the way? People that invest in self-improvement, because I know it was like it's 400 million a day or something.
365 million a day, $365 million a day into self-education. And here's what I want to say. That's amazing. It's the fastest way to get to where you want to be. Get in a mastermind, go to an event, read the books. The only thing I'm saying in advance is make sure you're learning from someone who's been there, or you're entering a group of people that are at the same level as you, wanting to go to another level. But learning on your own is outdated. Like, that doesn't work. The world's moving too fast. Traditional education is broken. It's a linear path. We need exponential growth. You get exponential growth from learning from people who've already been there. You're obviously smart enough to realize that. That's why you're listening or watching to this podcast. So back to my story. I'll say it just so you have a little context, and we'll get through it quick. All of us have our past. All of us have our history. I didn't come from money. I didn't go past high school. I was very dyslexic in school, so college wasn't a thing for me. Very blue-collar family. My mom cleaned houses and worked in a salon, hair salon, and my dad fixed cars. High school, I started working with my dad. I realized that my dad, though an awesome guy, had habits that kept him broke, had habits that kept him sad, had habits that made him depressed sometimes, made him violent sometimes. Right? We all got our story. My dad was a really violent guy. Love him to death. He was like, to me, he was the greatest dad in the world that taught me to drive and hunt, and then also the guy that scared me the most, right? But I watched them struggle so much, and all they were doing is repeating the same thing that their parents did. And though he repeated the same thing their parents did, and I don't know why I had an epiphany, or I'd love to say the sky parted and God spoke to me. I don't know what the heck it was. I just remember at a certain age saying, if I do what they do, I'm going to become who they are. And I didn't want to be my parents. I love my parents. I retired both my parents by the time I was 30. I just bought my mom a brand new house last week. I bought my dad a house. I buy them both their cars. I send them both checks every single week for 2 decades. I send
Here in Arizona?
My dad's here and my mom's in Virginia.
Nice.
I love them to death. I couldn't love them more, but I don't want to be them.
Yeah.
So I just knew I had to do something different. So I started fixing wrecked cars and flipping them in high school. Then I got my first apartment house with no money down, and I renovated the whole place myself. And when I refinanced it, I took that money and put it into the next property, into the next, into the next. And then I started buying raw land and subdividing it and building houses. And then something shifted. Real estate was my life. I mean, I became a millionaire because of real estate. I retired my parents originally because of real estate. But then I bought Tony Robbins' course when I was 28 years old, 1998. And I bought his course, and it fundamentally shifted me. I was successful up to that point, and maybe some of you can relate to this. I had built success, but I had done it in a really hosed up way. I did it in an unhealthy way. I was running away from a painful childhood rather than running towards a bigger future. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right? We all run away from something.
Yeah.
And most entrepreneurs that you meet, if they're sitting in this table, at some point in their life, they ran away from pain.
Yeah.
And if the pain's strong enough, you run hard enough, right? But it doesn't mean it's healthy or sustainable. And Tony just showed me a different way. And fundamentally, it shifted me in two ways. And I hope you really hear this about self-education. Tony took his knowledge that he learned from Jim Rohn and so many other teachers, and he put it in a course. He took my money, I invested in him, and he shifted my life. It was worth more than any car, any Ferrari, any trip, any plane ride. He gave me knowledge, right? What is that? Give a man a fish, feed him for a day.
Yeah. Teach
a man to fish, feed him for life.
Yeah.
It gave me skills to be a more abundant man, to be better at business, to be better at life. So it did two things. It gave me that. But secondly, I'm like, damn, this guy, I gave him money.
Yeah.
He gave me knowledge, shifted my life. That's a business? Holy crap. And because of me giving Tony Robbins money is why I went in the self-education industry. Within a year, I was on TV with an infomercial teaching people.
I remember those.
Yeah. And that was because I gave Tony money. And the funny thing is everybody goes, well, why'd you do an infomercial? It's like, because it was 1998. There was nothing else.
Yeah.
There was infomercials and direct mail. There was no internet. There was no Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. There was no podcast. There was nothing. Yeah. If you wanted to watch something about wealthy people, you went on TV and watched Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous with Robin Leach. That wasn't out there. So I got my first infomercial on TV. I bombed. I was funding it with real estate, just so you know. So when I was losing money trying to sell my self-education course, I'd just go flip another house, make $5 or $10 and plop it in the bank. It was like a colander, you know, when you strain your spaghetti. Yeah. I'd put the money in and it'd go out the bottom. But with capabilities, with desire, with the right mindset, I just kept going until we got more momentum. I created my first real estate course, which was called Think a Little Different. That was probably in 2004. And within a few years, we became the biggest real estate educators in the world. I'd love to say it was just this straight 45-degree angle of bliss and excitement. It was like, it was like, no, we don't have this. We're going to lose everything. Oh, no, I think we got it. Things are good. No, it's not, you know. Yeah. But along that journey, it taught me the lessons of what you need to go forward. And, you know, there's a lot of things I could share today, but there's a couple quick lessons I want to give you. If you want to make more money, solve bigger problems. Stop trying to avoid problems. Stop trying to look away from them. There's things in your life you're avoiding or scary, or you're afraid of, or you don't want to sell that level, or you don't want to run that level, or deep down you feel guilty about making money. Your next level lives on the other side of you facing that. Yeah. You have to face your fear. It's like, it just has to be done. So one, your next level lives on the other side of the thing you fear. Number two, solve bigger problems. Stop trying to avoid problems or think that you're not going to fund your way out of problems. Yeah. When you made more money, did your problems go away, or did you just learn to deal with bigger problems?
A lot bigger problems now.
You got better at it. Yeah. But let me ask you a question. Think back when you were starting out and you were heading into your real estate world. Mm-hmm. Think back when the economy shifted and you're struggling through that. Think back when you're growing again. I got to ask you something. Do $10,000 problems feel just the same as $1 million problem? I mean, as far as work and stress, they feel the same.
I mean, I think the $10,000 problems before felt worse. The $1 million problems now feel like tickles.
Okay, so my whole point is, but the problem is when somebody's facing $1,000, $10,000, $100,000 problem, it seems so heavy. I think we put in our head, oh my God, how could I ever handle $1 million or $10 million? What about $100 million problem? Oh my God, it's completely different. Yep. It's actually easier, but my whole point is, if you're gonna handle problems, if life's gonna happen anyway, if shit's gonna go sideways anyway, if people are gonna let you down anyway, if your friends and family are gonna call you a dreamer anyway, if you're gonna feel like an imposter anyway, you might as well go after the $10 million gig rather than the $10 gig, because it's gonna feel the same. Even if you fail, it'll feel the same. Yeah. So literally, I adopted that philosophy probably, especially Tony's now my dearest friend, partner in 3 companies. Yeah. We talk every single day. He stretched me. Mm-hmm. Like when I think of, when I was buying a plane, I was going to buy one, and he's like, Don't be a baby. If you're going to buy a plane, go all in. Buy one you could stand up with and go to Europe in. I'm like, all right, screw it. And I go bigger. Like, you have this opportunity to stretch.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that to be like, oh, I have a plane. I'm not trying to brag. It took me a long years. It took me 30 years of working hard to be able to do something like that. So this is not overnight. Nobody even knows I have a plane. You don't see it on my Instagram. Yeah. I never show a picture of a watch or my cars or my house, or you don't know that, I have a plane that can fly me to Europe.
Yeah.
Nobody knows, but I do. And it's for my family. It's not for me to brag. It's for my freedom to be able to do the things and serve more people and impact more people and all that kind of stuff. Only reason I'm sharing this is there's fundamental things we all face when we want success, and you think it's unique to you, right? When you look in the mirror and say, man, can I really do this? We all feel that way, right? When you feel like an imposter some days. You ever feel like an imposter as you're growing?
Yeah.
When you interview somebody, when you start a new business, you're like, you look around, you go, man, can we really do this one? What if it doesn't work out? We're going to lose it all? Shit, we're going to go backwards?
Yeah, but my wife's more takes more of that. I'm just like, let's just go in and then we'll figure it out. And then I just throw it to her and she takes care of that. Yeah,
exactly. Well, thank God you make a perfect match.
Yeah.
Right?
But going back, Tony Robbins, like we have a lot of similarities you touched on a lot of things already that I wanted to talk about. But Tony Robbins, I went to a seminar, walked on fire. I sat at the back. I think I got like the cheapest ticket. I don't know if it was $99 or something like that. But I sat in the back. And I remember the people in the back were all like, Tony Robbins, and Tony's your best friend. So you know Tony really well. But people in the back were saying like, Tony Robbins is smiling and screaming because he's making so much money from all of us. But then I was listening to those people in the back, and then I'm like, I don't know. I see all the people in the front that are paying these high ticket prices, and these people are successful people, and they're like on stage and they're like sharing their stories, and I'm like, I think I kind of want to be like them. But in the beginning,
really good,
when you're, and that's the ticket I could afford because I couldn't afford anything else. So I went there, and I was like broken, like my family, my parents, we're Latino, we're Mexican, so they think differently. Like they used to get mad because I used to keep the refrigerator open and the electricity was being wasted. The lights, like I grew up with that poor mindset.
Same here.
And I had to force myself to get out of that. So Tony Robbins was the first person I started. He stretched me from far. And then I started going to more seminars and learning more. But every year I got better. But my question to you is, why do you think that 1% of the people that go to seminars and learn are the ones that take action? 99% of the people that go are just kind of being negative in the back, and then there's the people that go and buy expensive tickets, and they keep buying expensive tickets year after year after year, and they're still doing the same thing. Like they don't get any better. What's that difference from the 1%ers that you think is the main thing?
Well, there's a lot of answers that come to my mind all at once, and
because you took action.
Yep, I believe. I think there's a couple things.
Yeah.
So many answers are coming to me at one because I want to give you something unique. I don't want to give you a canned answer. I want to give you something from my heart because it's been my obsession for the last 25 years is how do I get more than 2%, 5%, 7%? And some of the programs we have, we're up to 30, 40% of the people taking massive action, getting results. But that took 40 years between Tony 40 years, me 25 to figure out how to anchor people so hard that they feel, and this is a word you should write down, you should feel disturbed with your own inaction. You should be disturbed if you go to a Tony event and it fires you up and makes you see that you can live in a different state, that you have more opportunities, that life happened for you, not to you, that God designed life exactly the way it was supposed to be for you, and you have limitless possibility. It's not enough to feel that.
Yeah.
It's not enough.
Yeah.
Because 90% of the room feels that one. I just got done with the UPW in Florida. It was the most amazing event. 10,000 people rocking the house. I want every one of their lives transformed. Every one of them felt it. Everyone was in state. They were dancing, screaming. They could feel that they were meant for more. Yeah. But why do a lot of them go home and fall right back into who they used to be? And I think there's a couple reasons. For me, so I'm going to just give you, I don't know if this is textbook. This is just me. I do everything in my power to get leverage on myself, to stand by what I say I want. Mm-hmm. There's nothing worse than your friend who's a little overweight, and every time you see him, they say, oh man, I'm going to look like you, man. I'm finally getting back in the gym next week. And you see them 6 months later, and they're still doing the same thing. If you want to be overweight, there's nothing wrong with it. Just say, I'm going to be overweight, and I'm not doing shit about it. I like myself.
Yeah.
Done. But there's nothing worse than hearing someone say, man, you know, I haven't really had a date with my wife. I got to look her in the eye. I got to take her out and romance her. I got to do this. And then 6 months later, how you doing with dates? You know, nah, we haven't. I got to date. It's like, okay, you're 8 months away from your relationship being over. Like, don't talk about it, be about it. That's my wife's thing. My wife was brought up very similar to you. Her parents are from Mexico and like, you know, really traditional old school. And my wife's got some simple sayings that I freaking love. She's like, don't talk about it, be about it. She told me that's why she fell in love with me. She goes, you're not a guy that just talks. Everybody talks.
Oh, yeah.
So get disturbed with your own inaction. Number 2, when you feel that inspiration, when you feel that drive, that state of mind, when you feel like I learned something, I can do it, you have to do something to start momentum.
Yeah.
Right? And so when I say leverage, this is what I'm talking about. I do really crazy things sometimes in my own brain.
Yeah.
I actually think sometimes of, I'll do things like picture my life in the end, and I'm 100 years old. Mm-hmm. I believe in God. Everybody's got their own thing.
Yeah.
But at the end of my life, and I got a chance to talk to God, I'll think to myself, imagine if God listened to you and you said, so tell me about it. You got 5 minutes with me before you go on to the pearly gates. You got 5 minutes with me. Where'd your life go? Well, could you imagine a tale of 2 stories? One is, thank you for this life. I squeezed the juice out of it. I know I failed a lot, God, but I went after it because I felt this calling. I felt you gave me more. I went after it. I failed like 20 times. I almost gave up. But that 21st time, the business worked, the relationship worked. I became the better dad. I became this. I lived this, and I got to impact lives. I've donated more. I know I failed a lot, but I went for it. Or what if you had to sit in front of your maker and say, you know, God, when I was 32 years old, you know, I was finally going to do my own thing. I was going to start real estate. I was going to go all in. I was going to double down. I was going to refinance my house, use the money, do this, do that. But, you know, it was a weird time. We had this funky president. The country was a little divided. You know, my husband, he didn't think that I could do it, or I didn't feel I was that smart. So, you know, God, I played it safe.
Yeah.
I could picture God's disappointment of like another one who just played it safe. And now God wouldn't do this. Wherever you believe your maker is. But could you imagine this? Imagine if God pulled out his iPhone and played a video of the man you could have been. Mm-hmm. I think about stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because I want leverage. Because if you think it's easier for you or easier for me or anyone you see successful, you think it's easier to make a decision to go all in and face fire, to have the opportunity to lose everything you have, to go against your family sometimes, to look like the oddball amongst your friends, to go against that inner self-doubt and that intuition that says we're going too fast. If you think it's easy, it's not. We just have to get the leverage. We need a strong enough, compelling future. We need a strong enough why the hell we want it. We need to know who do we want to be at the end of this life? Yeah. What do we want to leave? And all of that stuff stacks up to go, I'm afraid, I'm scared, but I'm doing it anyway.
Yeah.
And the last thing I'll say about that is the definition of courage. Courage isn't moving forward in the absence of fear. Courage is moving forward though you're scared to death.
Yeah.
And what do you need to move forward? You say you thank God you have a balance with your wife, right? You're a bull, you're moving forward. Yeah. But there's a reason for it. If I ask you, why the hell you work so hard? Why do you do it? Why do you keep moving forward? Why are you taking more chances? Why?
I mean, the drive, but if that's a question, like a personal question, the drive comes, it changes. In the beginning, it was because I wanted to prove something. Yeah. Now it's like level after level after level. Now I don't have a choice. That's how I see it, because now we build a company and we have a lot of people that rely on us. I have a family, daughters. So family, I don't only mean my daughters and my wife. I mean my parents that now look up to me, kind of. All the people that we employ, they rely on me, so I have no choice but to keep pushing hard.
But why did you put yourself in that position in the first place? Like, really think about it. Like, why'd you take this gamble? Being an entrepreneur is brutal, because no one's going to say, listen, if you make money, people say you got lucky and you pay lots of taxes. Yeah. If you don't make money, you were an idiot for trying because you weren't smart enough on the way you tried in the first place. So without it being so rewarding, why would you take that risk?
I want to leave a legacy. I want to be a hero.
Now you're starting to, right. And you want to, okay, so why do you want to be a hero to your kids?
Because when 200 years later, or not 200 years later, but maybe 60 years later, or 80, when I'm not here anymore, when kids are playing with when they're bigger, and they're maybe they're in their 40s or 50s, and I'm not here. I'm just making this up. And then somebody tells him, "Hey, was Albert your papa?" And they're like, "Damn, I can't believe that Albert changed this world." That's what I want to be remembered by.
Yeah. And why is it important to you that you want to change the world? If you don't mind me asking.
I want to be the greatest. Yeah. Like I want to be. I'm not here to be average. Like I want to make sure that I leave something that's great.
Okay. So when you start reminding yourself of that, what's possible when you're in this state right now?
Everything.
What's possible?
Everything.
Is there anything that would get in your fucking way?
Nothing.
Excuse my language.
Nothing. Yeah.
Is there anything that would get in your way?
Nothing.
If there was a brick wall, like this fake brick wall behind it, would you chew through it, climb over it, dig under it?
Whatever it takes.
Right. So when we're in that space,
yeah.
When you get yourself in that space of legacy, your 40-year-old, 50-year-old grandchildren talking about my grandfather, can't believe what he did, right? When you think of that and think of leaving that legacy, that's the only emotion, hear me, that is the only emotion that will carry you through the doubters, the naysayers, the inner self-doubt, the imposter syndrome, being afraid, pulling the trigger, going all in, where you go from, you said, why do people go to self-education and not all of them do it? Because a lot of them don't have a big enough reason why. They don't have a compelling future. Get yourself a compelling future. Listen, if I had more time, I would have gone deeper, because it's even deeper than that.
Yeah.
You think it's about just want to be the greatest, it's deeper than that. It's because maybe you watched your parents work hard and they tried, and you saw how they struggled and saved 5 cents by closing the refrigerator early. And there's something deeper, I promise.
Let me give you an example, a quick example. So my dad's a painter. He was a painter. And when I was 6 years old, he used to take me with him to paint houses in Beverly Hills because I wanted to work. And he took me to Beverly Hills coming from the ghetto where we had shootings, drug dealing. When I go there, I see this big mansion and I see this red Ferrari. I didn't know it was a Ferrari back then, but it was a red, nice car, shiny car. And I asked my dad, "Hey, Dad, how come, I'm like, what's up, Dad? Like, how come you don't have this house? Why do you have us in that house over there? Like, and why are we driving this white big van? Like, get one of those." And my dad told me something that stood out for the rest of my life. He said, "That's not for us." In Spanish, he told me, "No es para nosotros." That's not for us. And you speak a little bit of Spanish, Italian, Mexican. So that always stood there till today. I always have that underdog mentality that people count me out, and it gives me that drive.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, so I wrote a book called The Underdog Advantage. I get it, right? Yeah. I have my own drivers. And what I'll say is, I know we could talk about real estate till we're blue in the face. We could talk about the self-education industry, but listen to me. None of it works unless you get this straight. Mm-hmm. If you don't have a strong enough why, if you don't know your compelling future, if you're not ready to climb through every brick wall, then go upstream and find that desire. Find it so when you're facing, oh my God, the money didn't come through, the bank fell through, the bank called their loan, or whatever you go through in different markets. If you're just thinking, I just want to make more money to get the Ferrari, you have a reason for that Ferrari. You have a reason for your success. You have a reason for your future. That's when you say, oh, this failed, let's try again. That didn't work, let's try again. And how many times do you have to try again? Who knows? Could be 100. Right? It's the people who give up on the 60th one and don't realize that your 61st time of getting past that failure was your next level.
Yep.
And how many people give up? I always think, not to use a silly sports analogy, but how many people do you think give up on the 5-yard line? Like they went for it, they got it, and all of a sudden like, this is too hard. And then what? Go back to a life where you're not in control? Where someone else guides your life?
Yeah.
That's death to me. It's probably death to you.
And you touched on something really important, giving up in momentum. So when you keep that momentum, nothing stops you. But when you let go of that momentum, it's really dangerous because you might not ever get it back. But you talked about giving up. When somebody gives up once, it almost becomes like a path. Like, habit. You're going to give up every time something gets hard. Like a boxer, they're undefeated. They get knocked down, they get knocked out. And then guess what? Now everybody beats them up. Now they just start getting loss after loss, and they're insecure. Like, how important is it, or what do you do to not give up when things get really tough? Like, I'm talking about times when I wanted to jump off my balcony, times when I thought I was going to get a heart attack. Yeah. What do you do to keep going and stay focused? Where do you get that courage from?
For me, I look at the alternative. I don't want to be the guy that used to be successful. I don't want to be the guy that used to take care of his family. I don't want to be the guy that had lost dreams.
Used to.
I don't want to be the used to. That guy used to have a plane. That guy used to be successful. I don't want to be that guy. I want to be the guy that's growing. And when that shifts into and I learned this from Tony, when it shifts into contribution, when it shifts into growth, like I'm fighting to be a better version of me. Listen, I was divorced. I'm not an advocate of divorce, but I went through a divorce. And it wasn't her fault. It was a combo of both of us. I take full responsibility for my first relationship not working out. And it was really stressful because I worried about my kids so much, right? You know what it's like to be a parent.
Yeah.
I thought of seeing my kids half the time. Oh my God, like I was panicked. But where I found comfort is not only did we part amicably as friends, but I found an opportunity to grow. And I'm sharing this has nothing to do with real estate or making money, but really it does.
Yeah.
When I ended the relationship, instead of saying, screw her, let me go find someone that could fill me. Because I'm in this growth mindset, because I'm not in just significance and money, but I want to be a better version of me, I stopped for a moment and said, I don't want to bring the same bad habits and the shit that screwed up the first relationship into the next one.
Yeah.
And if I want to attract the woman of my dreams, I better be the man of someone else's dreams, right? It's not just her, it's about me. And I worked on me, and I interviewed people that had great relationships. And Tony and his wife Sage have the best relationship I've ever seen, and how they respect each other and love each other. And I read books, and I got a therapist. And by the time I met my wife, I attracted the woman of my dreams. Like, she's my best friend. We have a magical relationship. We're 5 years in. I literally fall more in love with her every day. We have a beautiful baby. We're trying for another one right now. But if I brought the old me into this relationship, I'd probably replicate exactly what I had. If you bring your old you that you had at your old job or the business that failed, that's who you were. It's okay. That was part of your journey. You learn from it. But if you bring that crap into your next relationship, into your next business, into the real estate business or any business without that desire to grow as a human, without learning from other people, reading the books, going to the events, going to masterminds, you bring the same person, you're going to get the same results. I brought a different human into this. And I have a different outcome. I always joke, I say, how lucky of a man. I walk in a room, we're 5 years together. I think my wife's the most beautiful woman in the world. But I walk in a room, when my wife sees me, it's like the first time she ever saw me. And it doesn't matter. If she was here right now and I walked into the room, she sees me, her eyes light up. There's never a time where she goes, hey, babe. It's like she greets me like I just met her.
It's like her.
It's the best. And what can you do when you got someone like that on your side?
Everything.
Everything and anything. My income since I met my wife has almost quadrupled.
Wow, you were already making a lot.
Yes. This year's the best year of my life. And we're in, COVID and all that crazy stuff. But it's all added up, right? I work on these pieces, and fundamentally, they're all the same. You have to go upstream and understand why. How do I grow? Where can I learn from this? How did life happen for me, not to me? Who do I want to be at the end of my life? How can I solve this problem? It might sound like you might be listening to and go, all right, get to how I can make money. What if I told you I'm sharing with you how to make money?
Yeah. And Dean, I think 99% of the people, because I was referring to the 1%ers, but 99% of people are like those I used to people, and they get to their 60s and they're still talking about, oh, I used to have a business. Oh, I used to be great at this. Oh, I used to be an owner. Oh, I used to, but like I want to learn from people that are doing it. And then people say, I have 40 years of experience. Like, you mean you have 1 year of experience repeating that 40 times?
Yeah.
That's not experience. Like, you're still the same as you were when you were 20, but now you're 60. That's not 40 years of experience. Like, I see you with your experience. I think you're 52, maybe off by a year. Yeah. But every year you reinvent yourself. Like, I think every year you're like 2 times more powerful at least than you were the year before. And you keep that drive like every year. Like you mentioned it 5 years ago, the last 5 years you've quadrupled your income and your wealth. So those 99%ers, do you think that they have hope? Like what kind of training do you think? Let's talk about your mastermind a little bit. Can these people still change even if they've been repeating the same thing for 40 years? Is it too late? Is it ever too late?
No, probably like you, I'm a hopeless optimistic. I'm optimistically hopeful in every way possible. Listen, I because he's a dear friend, and whenever I remember something I learned from somebody, I try to quote it because I don't want to make it mine. But I remember Tony teaching us 25 years ago. How long does it take to quit smoking? Mm-hmm. And some people say, it took me 5 years. It took me 3 years. And Tony will say, bullshit. You thought about that shit for 5 years, but in a moment you decided to change, right? Something triggered you in a moment. You have cancer. You're going to get sick. Your wife's going to leave you if you don't. And something in a moment, it took you an eighth of a second to quit. It took you 5 years to think about quitting. And I think about the same thing. Don't beat yourself up for the past, the failures, the overthinking, the procrastination, waiting for the I's to be dotted and the T's to be crossed. A lot of times that's just fear. You blame it on the economy, you blame it on the president, you blame it that your wife doesn't support you, you blame it on a million things. Really, if you dig under the hood, you're just scared. And that's okay.
Yeah.
But you can make a decision today. If nothing else out of this podcast, video, whatever you're watching, however you receive this message, is what if you just decided today that you were going to use your past as your fuel, that you weren't going to spend another year talking about the good old days. There's nothing I hate more than sitting around a bunch of people talking about the good old days or when the business was thriving. Or you remember in 2005 when the real estate market was cranked? It's like, yeah, but how'd you do in 2007? What'd you do in 2009 after you lost it all? Did you rebound or did you go become an Uber driver and talk about how you used to own lots of real estate? Like, come on, like we have this opportunity to say enough is enough, right? Enough is enough. And instead of using your past to repeat itself, be disturbed with your past enough to change it, but know that maybe it was designed exactly the way it was supposed to be.
Yeah. And going back to a little bit of real estate, and I know a lot of those Uber drivers. We've had some crazy stories with them. Yeah. But going to real estate, because I want to do real estate, but it's just so good that I want to.
No, whatever you want, dude. I'm here for you guys.
But it relates to what we're talking about, real estate. So you had a similar story when you said you bought real estate and you had to sell it to keep your infomercials running. So like we bought real estate, like small deals, 4 units, 3 units. For FHA was our first purchase before we got married. She got an FHA, I got an FHA, and then we started a mortgage company. Every quarter, we're going out of business. I'm like, man, because I wanted to be a CEO so bad, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be a CEO, entrepreneur. We started the company and it doesn't work out. We're like losing money. I'm better off just being a loan originator because I was working for a broker because I was keeping more money. You start a business, you have all these expenses, and you don't think about that. So we're losing money. So I sell a property. Okay, we're back on track.
We're good for another month.
and then it happens again. So we went through not a lot, but we had about 18 properties. We went through all of them like that. And then we got to the last property, and she almost, maybe it's a question for her, but she almost left me, I think. She started crying because I used up all her savings. I maxed out all her credit cards, and we had only one more property, and this was like our last chance. But we just took that chance. I convinced her after we cried at the Fontainebleau in Miami. This was like 2.5 years ago, maybe 3 now because time flies. But that moment, that was my last chance, and that was the moment. That was the moment that we just took off and never looked back. And I don't mean it by never look back because you never know what could happen tomorrow. But
of course,
we just took off like your last 5 years. But when you were in that and when you were selling your properties to survive, what made you believe that you were going to make it, that it was going to work out? What if you lost all your properties, you sold them, and then it didn't work out? What kept you going in that moment?
Really good question.
Because I know what kept me going, but what kept you going? Because I think it's going to be very similar.
Because I couldn't settle for the man I used to be. I'd rather go down, as, again, I heard this from Tony, but the only way to take the island is you got to burn the boats. And I know this might sound like I'm promoting, like I'm patting myself on the back, but I don't know if I've ever, when I am completely committed, I don't know if I've ever let anything fail. And maybe you might call that relentless or luck, or maybe I'm different than you. I don't think so.
You're a beast.
When you look at successful people, they just don't take failure as an option. Does that mean I didn't fail? Hell no. I've been down to my last penny living off credit cards. I had to sell my home 15 years ago. I had to sell the home I lived in, moved in a little tiny rented apartment because I made so many big real estate decisions while I was ramping up my self-education industry that I got over-leveraged. And I had a partner rob some money and some crazy stuff happened, an accountant, and lots of things happened all at once, down to sleepless nights, ulcer, living off credit cards. That could look like failure, but in hindsight, it was all part of a bigger design. And so lots of answers, as you can see. Yeah. I might digress here. But
go ahead.
I don't think there's ever a failure. It's just part of the building blocks. Yeah. And I came up with this silly analogy about 15 years ago when there was just so much crap coming at once. You probably remember this. Why you felt at Fountain Blue.
Yeah.
It's like, damn, every decision I made is just stupid. Like, why would I sell all our properties? Why did I try to start this business? My ego, your ego fucked with you. Excuse me for saying it, but your ego messed with you. Me too. It happens to all of us. It's not like you. All of us. It's like, I need to be CEO. I'm going to own this shit.
Yeah.
But you weren't prepared. You weren't doing it the right way. But what if you had to learn that? That's the only reason you took off after that is, and here's the way I look at it. You ready for this? You'll never look at it the same. What if there was a success auditor and you had to pay your success tax? Think about that. I know these are crazy analogies. Maybe it's the way my brain works. Maybe not everybody thinks this way.
Yeah.
But I think about, could you imagine an auditor with a little checklist?
Yeah.
Say, Albert wants to go ahead. I don't know if he's got it. He wants to do his own thing. Have him sell his first 3 properties. Check. He sold them. Oh, he's still trying. That's pretty cool. We ready to let Albert go to the next level? Nah. He's got to sell 5 more. All right. Check, check, check. 5 more get sold. All right, we're going to let Albert go? I don't think so, because, man, this guy needs more driven. We need his wife to be on his ass. He needs to get down to his last property. Let's see if Albert's actually got it. And I believe in that moment, the success auditor is looking like he's going to give up. And like there's 2 of them and they're betting.
Yeah.
Albert, his wife's going to get on his ass. He's going to go back and get a job. No, he's not. I believe in this dude. This dude's going to make it work because he's at the bottom. I'll bet you $5. I believe that you have to check those boxes off. And listen, I'm just going to be honest with you. I think some people probably have to check 2 boxes.
Yep.
And maybe they seem to get there a little quicker than you. But I think maybe some of us, I feel like I had to check 100 boxes. I feel like there was success auditors going, no, I'm going to mess with him one more time because he's giving up. I'm going to burn this guy out. And I feel like I'm like, screw you. I checked another box. Bring it. I got this. Bring it. Right? Do you always feel that way? Hell no. If you don't think that I've said to myself, I'm done. I got enough money, or I'm going to sell my property. I can put enough millions in the bank. I'm out. I can't handle this anymore. If you don't think I've thought that, you're crazy. But it's only a flash. And I think of the alternative, and that's not the man I want to be. It's not the example I want to leave my children. I want my wife to look at me and go, man, that son of a bitch gets shit done, right? I want my parents to be proud. And more than that, though, I want to grow as a man. I want to see what's possible. And the truth is, I'm gonna leave my kids in a really great place if they're capable of handling it. But I'm probably gonna give most of my money away.
Yeah.
I probably am.
Yeah.
So my whole point is, imagine if you're listening right now or watching and shit went sideways, things went wrong, family let you down, spouse or relationship went wrong, partner stole money from you. I'm sorry. I mean it. I'm not trying to make light of it. I know the pain. I know the feeling. But what if there was someone watching and go, hey, that's the last one. No more for Bob, for Lisa, for Diane. No more. Next time she gets up, next time he gets up, this is her time. This is your time. And you don't know when that is. It might be 2 more failures. It might be you already have all your failures behind you, right? But if I look through that lens, that's just one. Remember I said leverage?
Yeah.
That's just another leverage for me.
Yeah. And Dean, you seem like a pretty intense guy. Do you think that the way you do one thing is the way you do everything?
Yes, absolutely. I tell my kids that. It's funny you say that. I tell my kids all the time. They're like, Dad, but it's only this. I'm like, if you don't make your bed and don't do that, that's how you're going to. So I believe how you do one thing is how you do everything.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's something that I always say, but some people are like, well, that's not true. Well, you could be fat, but then kill it in all these other things. It's okay. Or some people are it's another thing. They make an excuse like, oh, you could be good in all these other areas, but you could be a cheater. And so people always find excuses for that. Why?
I'll give you an example. In my previous relationship, I wasn't congruent with the man I wanted to be. I was crushing it. I'd been on TV for 2 decades. I had money in the bank, did all kinds of cool stuff. But my relationship kind of sucked. Right? I wasn't connected with my ex. She wasn't connected with me. We were really good co-parents, really good friends. I lived in the guest house for years. No one knew. Do you know how incongruent I felt behind the scenes? Like, I never talked about relationships. I never gave relationship advice. But since I wasn't aligned in all areas, and thank God I'm dear friends with Tony, and all he ever said to me is, you have no idea what life's like when you put all these principles that you've learned for business, when you put them in all areas of your life, each area grows. And when that collectiveness comes together, he always told me, you have no idea. I don't care how successful you are, how happy you think you are. When the collectiveness of all of this comes together, how you do one thing, it's how you do everything, crushing it in business, but, happy to be on the road and not be home in your personal life, you can't be the man or the woman God designed you to be because you're doing one thing great and you're screwing up over here.
Yeah.
And he was 1,000% right.
Yeah.
1,000% right. Well, my life is so in alignment in every area that I feel like a car that I thought I was going fast. You said, what's your favorite car?
Ferrari.
Is it 6-speed, 5-speed?
I like the V12.
V12,
Yeah.
but I mean, is it standard or automatic?
Well, I mean, there's stick shift now.
Oh, gotcha.
So like
on the handlebars.
it's almost, it's like auto, like pretty auto.
But here's what I'll tell you. When you feel that congruency in all areas of your life, you thought you were going as fast as the car would go, but you're only in third gear.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you find congruency and there's fourth, fifth, sixth, and all of a sudden it's like, holy crap, there's no resistance.
I like pushing the car where it's making so much noise, where you're like, the car's going like that. Like I'm always, and then I just rev the engine for fun. Kind of makes me feel good.
Yeah.
But Dean, 5 years ago you said that you changed. You're like a different Dean that you were 10 years ago. So 10 years ago, you were killing it. You were making a lot of money, and you're making a lot of money now. You're making more money. But what was it 5 years ago that you think, if there's one thing that made you different? Because for me, I made a lot of money young, and I lost it all in 2008. Maybe we could talk a little bit about 2008. But even when I got with my wife now, Syl, I was dating a lot of girls and going out and lying and doing bad things. And then every year I got a little bit better, but I always had like that naughty side about me. But then when I had my first daughter, that changed me. That was like the day that I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be a father now for the first time. It's a little girl. Like I can't be the same naughty Albert. Like now I got to put my feet down and be 100% committed to my wife and my little girls. That's why now whenever it was a short trip, Arizona, but I'm like, you know what? We're just gonna fly all together. We brought our nanny. I brought my 2 little girls, and we make it a trip. And we left from Van Nuys to here, and then we're gonna fly back to El Monte because we have something to do in that area with Bedros. So I did that, but my daughter was what changed me and made me more powerful. Yeah. So 5 years ago, what is that power move or that power thing that happened? Was there something? Or
yeah, I realized that I had found at that time was the pinnacle of my success.
Yeah.
Right? It was the best success I've ever had. I had really amazing friends in my life. Tony Robbins, who was my mentor, was my best friend. Other great friends that I respect and love. I was able to take care of my family. We have an amazing team, great office.
Yeah, beautiful.
All these things, and the truth of the matter is many nights I'd sit home and felt lonely. And because I wasn't connected to my relationship.
Yeah.
And I couldn't wait to be on the road because I'd be connected to an audience or I'd go to dinner with somebody else. I was not congruent in that area of my life. And it was just a day I realized I can't do this anymore. I can't fake that part of my life.
Yeah.
So for you, it was your daughter. I already had a daughter. I had a son. And I knew that I had to be the man to stop dragging out a bad relationship. And my previous wife felt the same exact way. It wasn't a shock to her. And we're truly friends. And we co-parent amazing. But there was a line in the sand. And when that happened, it was a scary time because I was worried about my kids. But it was also a growth time. And I said, the only area of my life that's not you, call it naughty Albert, right?
Yeah.
I had my own shit. And I was like, I don't want to be that man. Because it wasn't satisfying. It wasn't fulfilling. I felt lonely as hell. I can remember like 5 New Year's Eves in a row with the ball dropping and sitting in my multi-million-dollar house, sitting on a couch, looking at the flat screen. All the kids, my previous wife's asleep. My kids are asleep, and I'm sitting on the couch, and I'm like, man, I'd love to kiss somebody that I actually cared about. And again, please, I really mean this. I don't want to take that away from my wife, my previous wife, like she was a bad person. She's not. She's actually a really good person. She just wasn't the person I was supposed to be with.
Yeah.
And maybe it was the wrong time, right? But I remember that feeling. And one day, just like I told you earlier, I thought about leaving for 5 years every day. And I think she did too.
Yeah.
I thought about it. And it was like, I would never do that in my business. I execute, I move. Tony and I have a lunch and we say, let's do it. That next morning, I'm all in, going, no stopping. I'm a bulldozer. Don't get in my way. It's getting it done. And then in my personal life, I didn't take that, how you do one thing, how you do everything. I tell my kids that I was full of shit.
Yeah.
Because in my personal life, I'd wake up every morning and go, this is the week I think I'm going to leave. And finally, when I made that decision, when I faced my biggest fear, when I had that conversation with my kids, when we did it, and I started working on me, it was like 5,000 pounds off my shoulder.
Yeah.
And then I never would have attracted the kind of woman. I see what you guys have. I have the same. My wife is my most favorite human being. She's a badass businesswoman. She's an amazing mom. She loves her family. Like, I attracted this human that put all my life in congruency, and just there was no stopping. And that's how I feel now.
Yeah.
Life is limitless.
Yeah.
Because of that.
Family seems really important to you. You get excited. Like I don't know if you notice yourself, but you seem like super pumped. Like you got pumped up towards the middle end part, but you get. It seems like you have something that's really exciting you right now. I don't know what it is. Maybe you could share it, but you seem really excited right now about something. And then I saw some older videos that you did, and it almost looks like right now, not only you look, but it seems like you feel younger than you were 10 or 20 years ago. Like you have that extra energy that I don't know where you're getting it from. Is there something that has to do with that?
Yeah, a couple of things. Well, first off, I love what I do for a living.
Because I want to be like that. Like 10 years from now, or like I want that secret. So make sure you guys get that.
So I'll tell you a couple things. One, I truly love being in love with my wife, and what I realized is just what you said. What you guys have is proximity.
Yeah.
You were coming out here. You could have come alone. You could have spent an extra night here and said, "Hon, I'm going to try to go to dinner with Dean, and I'm going to stay." You could have. You chose proximity, and since the day I met my wife, I don't go anywhere without her. And that was Tony's advice. He literally said to me, "When you get the right woman, and I know you're gonna find love." And he'd take his big hand and put it on my chest. He's like, this body's full of love. You are what he said. You are a love something. Love something. He said you are full of it. And when you find the woman that matches that love, and he's got his hand on my chest, he said, don't let her out of your sight. Proximity is power.
Yeah.
Because you get to go on stage and there's 20,000 people. You want to look over and see the love of your life staring at you.
I always do that.
And that I took that advice. So I love the thought of, I want to do what everybody says you can't. I dated a lot too. Mm-hmm. So I'll just leave it at
Italian and Mexicans are good at that.
I dated a lot.
Yeah.
And I didn't know if there was an opportunity to really feel that way about one woman. I have to tell you, probably until I met my wife, I was probably like, I'll just be a good dad and date like crazy. And when I met my wife, I went from someone that wouldn't be faithful probably to I'd rather die before I'd be unfaithful to my wife.
Yeah.
And because of that, and she feels it, she truly falls in love with me every day. I didn't even know it was possible. I know right now you're probably like, I listen to Albert, so I want to make money. This guy's talking about how much he loves his wife. But I'm telling you, all these little pieces. You ask me why I'm excited? Yeah. You know why I'm excited? Because I've proven 5 years in that I could fall in love with this woman more and she falls in love with me. I've proven that though I thought I was a good dad, I want to be better. Now I got a little 19-month-old. My daughter's going to be 15 tomorrow.
Wow.
We're trying for more babies. I'm excited to be a next level dad.
Yeah.
I'm excited that Tony Robbins and I have partnered in 3 different companies and we're really making an impact on the world. I mean, the guy's been doing it for 45 years. There's nobody better. But I'm making more of an impact in helping people in a time of chaos and craziness. The outside world's out of freaking control. Yeah. And the only way to control it is get the inner game.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that we're helping people with their inner game. So maybe if you interview me, and it'll never be different about my family.
Yeah.
But I always love the thing I'm in so much that it drives me to the next level.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, I what I got from this is you kind of made me lose my thoughts because you were so passionate about family. I think family drives you a lot.
It does.
I think family.
It does.
And like for me, I'd rather pay extra money and be with my thinking. Like I'm thinking like, okay, I'm gonna fly out. I'm gonna have to go away to American Airlines and and then my daughter's going to be with my wife, and I just don't want to be without them. So I'm like, you know what? Let's just make the investment and just all of us come together. We're together in the plane. We fly in and we fly back, and because time's really important. Time you can't get time back.
Yeah.
So like I know right now, every successful person values time. Some people don't value time, or maybe they don't know they're not valuing time. Speaking about time. Did you make some cuts in your life? Like maybe there were people that weren't supposed to be in your life, and then because for us, we cut a lot of people, and that made a big difference.
I'm going to be
toxic people.
I'm going to be brutally honest.
Yeah. Sometimes they're family, right?
Yeah, of course. I'm going to be brutally honest here. the only way to get from where you are to where you want to go. In the beginning of this, I shared there's a gap, right? Mm-hmm. And I love the saying, yes got you out of Egypt. No will take you to the promised land. The only way to get more time to do the things that can grow your income, your happiness, your joy, is you must say no to the things that you used to say yes to. You have to cut stuff out. There's only 24 hours in a day. How we use the time is the absolute number one thing that drives success, right? If you're wasting your time, if you're surfing on the internet, you're binging on Netflix, you're hanging out with negative people that make you question yourself, you're hanging out with your cousin who every time you see him, he tells you you're a dreamer and then you question yourself, or you're watching hours of news and you're like, man, the world's going to hell in a handbasket. There is no time for you to do the things you're supposed to do. And plus, your confidence will be compromised, and you don't do crap when your confidence is compromised. So here's what, I know we're getting towards the end here, but I think this is really important, is identify what success means to you. Yeah. Even if you've never written it down, I know for a fact you know what success means to you. You just shared it about your wife and your daughters, right? But when I get excited about talking about it, I'm a little older than you. I've been doing this for a long time. It gets me in a state because I know what success means to me. And this is not going to be sexy to some of you because, listen, in my 20s, I was brought up, I literally lived in the only trailer park in our town in upstate New York. We got evicted from that trailer park. My mom and dad split when I was 3. My dad didn't give her any money, so she worked 3 jobs to make about $90 a week. So if you can, I know where you shared where you grew up. Mine wasn't the hood, there wasn't gun shooting and drugs, there was just no money, right? My mom would get home at 9 o'clock at night from when we were really little. My sister and I would make dinner for her because she'd come home tired and beat up. But that woman, look what she sacrificed, right? So I know that side of it, right? But what am I fighting for is, for me, I was going to say, going from that to finally start making money in real estate in my early 20s, to doing a couple big real estate deals, about 24, 25, 27, I did my biggest one. I made $800,000 at 27. Wow. Net profit, had to pay income tax on $800,000. Yes. Not, people say, I did $800,000, but they made 50, right? But I made $800,000 on this deal. And that's when I retired my parents and took all this stuff. So my definition of success in my 20s, Albert, and maybe you could relate to this, is I lived in upstate New York. I would jump on a plane Thursdays, and I would fly to Miami. And by Friday night, I'd be dancing on tables with bottle service, with girls around, people around, because I grew up with nothing. And to me, Latin music, DJ, freaking lounges, I felt like I was king of the world, on fire. Yeah. You couldn't pay me $1 million to go do that today. Yeah. It's like, oh my God, what was wrong with me? But in the moment, that drove me. And I might have needed that for a moment. On the opposite side, I used to like cars. I drive a Ford pickup truck outside right now, right? But what success means to me this morning, which I do every day when I have my kids, I get up early, I go to the gym, I come back, I make my kids lunch. I've been doing it since they were born. I make them lunch. I make them breakfast. We have a great conversation. I drive them both to school. Today at 3 o'clock when they're done, I've picked my kids up 99% of the time. If I'm in town, I pick them up at 3 o'clock. I'll be waiting outside for them to get in the car because that conversation is amazing. At 7 o'clock tonight, my son has baseball practice. It's an hour away. I'm going to be the one driving them just like I did last night because in that hour conversation, they're getting older. I get this amazing communication. Tomorrow night will be date night with my wife. The reason I'm saying this is because what success means to me is I want to be the dad I want to be. I want to be the husband I want to be. I want to be the leader to this team the way I want to be. And I want to impact lives. The truth is, I don't really like anything else. So I say no to everything. And at this phase of my life, it's really cool. I get invited, hey, I'm going to the Oscars. I'll send a plane to pick you up. You can sit right up front with me. It's like, nah, I think I'm just going to hang out with my wife. We're going to watch movie night. Like, I say no to everything because I say yes to the stuff that means something to me. And my life that I just explained to you, if you're single and want a role, that sounds like death to you, and that's okay. This is mine, right? I like wearing a t-shirt every day of my life at this phase right now. I have 100 of these t-shirts, but that's who I am, right? That's who I am.
Just like me.
Yeah, that's who I am right now, right? So I fight for what success means for me right now. When my kids are older and they leave, I'm probably going to be really all in on a couple charities I like. I'll be fighting for that every day, man. You interview me in a few years, I might be all in on this charity, but I'll have the same enthusiasm because that's what's important to me in the moment. So the last thing before we get going here is
Yeah.
identify what success means to you now, not what it used to be, not the things when you were running away from pain, when your ego was in control and you wanted to prove something to all your slacker friends. That was all cool at the time, but those days are gone.
Yeah.
Like truly identify success and then fight for your life, because it is your life.
Yeah.
Because a life without fulfillment is a life that's empty.
Yeah. Well, thank you for saying yes to me. So I'm really glad you did that. You don't seem like a guy that watches the news.
I don't.
You seem like a guy that's putting the news out.
Yeah.
So like just to touch on leadership a little bit. When 2008 happened, I'm sure you went through some stuff.
Yeah.
When the pandemic happened last year, I'm sure you went through some stuff. What do you think are key ingredients to you being a great leader? Because I see all your I met some of your people here when we got here, and they're under the right leadership. Like they're happy, excited. They speak really highly of you. They love to work here. So like what did you use any special techniques when 2008 happened? And then when the pandemic happened, to show that leadership? Because I think one important thing, and maybe you'll agree with me on this, is that people don't do what you tell them to do.
They become who you are.
People do what they see the
Same
leader
with your
doing.
kids.
Yeah.
Same with the kids. They don't become who you tell them to be. They become who you are.
What are a few key tips you'll give on leadership?
So one is, for me, my team's like my family. Mm-hmm. I don't have significance. We really don't do roles. Even though I have a CFO and a CEO and CMO and CTO and all that stuff, we don't really do roles. We all help each other in a way that we know that it's an assembly line, and you can't just focus on your part of the assembly line. You got to understand the whole assembly line and help where you can. So we have a team that's really connected. So I think above and beyond the culture of knowing that we got each other's backs is the one thing. Number two is our team knows that we're doing something bigger than just us. Yeah. Anybody will work for a check. You'll work a lot harder when you know you're making a difference in the world. So we all know what we're doing on a daily basis. But I think as a leader, people need confidence. Like the building's on fire, follow me, I got this.
Yeah.
Not like, oh crap, it's on fire. What do you think? It's not by committee. It's by showing the strength, and then you bring other people up that can do the same thing. We'll use an example. Right now, we're sitting in my studio, right? We got the big screen behind us. You see the big screen where I can see people? When the world shifts, you better do what Wayne Gretzky said, the great skater, hockey player. They said, somebody asked him one time, why was he so good? He said, because I think everybody skates to where the puck is, and I learned to figure out and skate where the puck is going. Really think about that. When the world shifted in COVID, we built this within 6 weeks. Yeah. I didn't wait to see where the world... So a good leader has to have the confidence to pivot. And usually when you pivot, it's not confidence, it's courage. Mm-hmm. But the courage relies back on your old experience. So when the world shifted, everybody's like, are we going to go live? We do a lot of live events, right? What are we going to do? I'm like, I'm not waiting. Figure out how to get big old screens in the room. Figure out how we can go virtual and not be on a little like Zoom screen where I could barely see them faces. I want to be able to look at people, see them in their living rooms, them see me, know that we're connected. And we did the research. Within 8 weeks, we were doing events in here. And this will be the most successful year I've ever had. Last year, during COVID, was the most successful year I've ever had in 35 years of being an entrepreneur, because we shifted. And I also know people who didn't and waited, and they're still trying to come out of it. So connected, caring about each other, figure out your culture and stick to it, and then have the courage and confidence to pivot. Yeah.
Wow. So that would be a perfect ending, Dean, but I want to ask you one last thing.
Yeah.
One last thing, because I think it's really important, because people, they got all this energy today. But I'm really curious about this too. Like if you could share what your schedule is Monday through Friday versus Saturday and Sunday, because I know family is really important, and for us, we have like a Sunday where it's family day. Yeah. So Sunday I'll wake up early, still do my morning routine, and then we'll spend time with the girls. We'll go to the park, we'll go to the pool, and things like that. But is how do you keep this energy at all times? Because I got to recharge on Sundays. Do you have something similar, or is it like Monday through Friday, like a certain way, then Saturday's different, Sunday's different? How's your
weekends?
your
I love both my kids play Baseball. My daughter pitches softball. My son plays baseball. So this time of year, it's every weekend. Like this weekend, there's 6 games this weekend. They both have tournaments this weekend. So that family time just rejuvenates me. I feel you have the same thing. So I definitely take the time, and I'll work around their schedules. So I still work a lot like you do.
Yeah.
So I'll get up on the weekends. I'll still get up at 5. I'll do my morning routine. I'll get work in until they wake up, and then I'll check out. And then if they're doing a game or they're going to a friend's house when they're gone, I probably work if I'm not going to. So I really, there was a saying I heard a million years ago. It said, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds cheesy, but I love what I do. So I never feel, it's stressful and there's a lot going on and hundreds of employees and people that I'm responsible for and new businesses and the juggle. You get it.
Yeah.
But I love it and I love what I do. So I don't feel like I'm working. So I definitely, my schedule's crazier than ever. Now I'm, I help run Tony's companies as well.
Yeah.
So it's crazy, but man, it stretches me and it shows what's possible.
And I know you're also friends with Richard Branson.
Yeah, Richard's he's a great dude.
So man, you live the dream life. I want to be like you. So I know there are a lot of people watching this. Like they got a lot from this. So Dean, I want to respect your time, and I'm so thankful that you took the time. You gave me a yes, because I know it's really hard to get a yes from you. So thank you so much. Where can people follow you? What's your favorite platform so that people can get more information about you?
Instagram's easy, or YouTube. I have a podcast, The Dean Graziosi Show. If you want to see what Tony Robbins and I are up to, go to deanstraining.com. There's a training of Tony and I, about 90 minutes. It's pretty amazing.
Awesome. We'll put the link below. Thank you, Dean. It was a pleasure having you.
Nice meeting you.
Honor. Thank you.